and welcome to the Doofcast, the official variety podcast of doofmedia.com. I am your host, Scott Daly, and this, as always, is my co-host and four-fingered magical elf assassin, Matt Freeman. Matt, how's it going? Assassinate anyone recently?
Hi, Four, Scott.
Hi, Four.
I have, and I feel really bad about it.
Good. I hope there's some sort of redemption arc coming soon with you.
Me too. I just feel like a redemption arc is in the air somehow.
It's just like you can taste it. You can taste the redemption in the air.
Absolutely.
This week on the show, it's another one of our patron-produced episodes. For those of you that don't know, folks that pledge to us at the Supreme Leader Doof level or above on Patreon, that's patreon.com/doofmedia, get to select a TV series, book, or video game for us to do a show on. This week, Patron Reismon asked us to take a look at the Netflix animated cartoon series, The Dragon Prince. So this week on the show, we'll be taking a look at the first 2 seasons of the show. 3 seasons are released, but we are just going to be talking about the first 2, Matt.
Sounds good.
And it will be full spoilers for both of those seasons. We're going to be talking about it in detail. So if you're worried about spoilers, you probably have a Netflix account, because doesn't everybody? Go watch it and then come back.
Yep.
And then we're going to round out this week's episode with me explaining to you and our listeners what the hell Quibi is. I got Quibi, and I quibbied some Quibbies, and I'm here to report.
Never even heard of this, so I'm looking forward to that.
All right. Let's just jump right into it, Matt, and let's talk about season 1 and 2 of The Dragon Prince.
We strike when the moon is highest. Moonshadow elves are dangerous elite fighters.
Can't you just make peace with them?
It's not that simple. There's history, wrongs on both sides.
Humans cut down the king of the dragons and destroyed his only egg, the Dragon Prince. Justice will not be denied.
So, Matt, what is The Dragon Prince?
Well, The Dragon Prince is an animated show featuring a group of children and their animal sidekick who travel alone around a divided world rife with conflict and ruled by primal elemental forces. They're attempting to assist a being of great power to grow out of his destined leadership role so he can prevent war and return balance to the world. Our characters are hounded by the son of a power-hungry leader and his sister, a woman greatly skilled in the most dangerous powers.
Oh God, Matt. I'm so embarrassed. I think I accidentally gave you the summary for Avatar: The Last Airbender instead of The Dragon Prince.
Hey,
because it's the same. All joking aside, this show is created by Aaron. I can't say his name. How do you say that name? Ehans? Aaron Ehans?
Yes.
Ehans?
Yeah, I don't know.
And Justin Richmond, who were 2 of the people involved in Avatar: The Last Airbender. This is their big follow-up thing. It was a big deal that Netflix scooped them up, and they have been working on the show over at Netflix. And it is very similar to Avatar in the ways that I just laid out in that summary for you there, Matt.
Yeah.
But it is also very different.
It is, yeah. So when you have a very winning formula, I guess you want to stick to the core elements of it, because
sure.
The thing is that everything that I just said is true, but they really do play around with the details of it. Like,
yeah.
And I don't necessarily want this to just be a discussion of Avatar: The Last Airbender, but like the details are switched around, where like the character who would be Zuko in this story is actually like just a kind of an obviously good and naive person who he's actually like much more obviously struggling and unable to follow the orders of his evil father.
Sure. And then Claudia, I think, is closer to the Zuko.
Yeah, maybe.
Than Soren is.
And those 2 siblings really love each other, which is already a huge departure. So
yes,
it is a fun framework because it creates like a lot of kind of automatic opportunities for conflict and storytelling.
Sure.
In fact, I think I like this more because
than Avatar.
No, I just mean that particular element of this of the
okay.
Like, well, I mean, I love the final fight between Azula and Zuko, but like I also just love that it's these siblings who really do love and appreciate each other, and there's more. Okay, I think I almost want to jump ahead to the dramatic thing that happens toward the end of season 2. Actually,
let's do it. This is our show. We can jump wherever we want.
It's true, because that was one of the most interesting things that happened. Actually, was his name. The guy's name is Soren, and he, he's constantly overconfident and a bit arrogant and full of himself, but in a way that's sort of endearing. And they think they've captured this dragon, or I guess they have captured the dragon, but then the good guys free the dragon, and he gets just wiped out and smashed against this rock, and his body is broken, he's paralyzed, and his sister's just freaking out, trying to figure out how she's going to help him and fix him, and it pushes her to go like beyond where she's ever gone before in terms of harvesting living things for her dark magic, so that she can, because the whole thing is humans can only do dark magic, which requires the body parts or lives of animals which contain the magic, and so she does that and gives him the use of his body back, but at some cost to herself, which is unspecified at this point in time. But I was like, oh, that was kind of an awesome, that was like the most awesome and dramatic thing that happened in the whole show to me. And obviously that wouldn't have worked if they were just like, oh, they hate each other,
Yeah, I know what you mean. That's, broadly the obviousness of what is the good parts and the bad parts of this world was, to me at first, like a detriment. Like when I was first watching the show, I was like, okay, it's obvious the dark magic is bad. Like every tool to telegraph evil they're using, whenever like their eyes turn black and their voice is echoey when they use it, and yes, you are sucking the life force of people. It is the main instigating force of the whole show, is the humans discovering this dark magic, which is what got them banned to the other side of the continent, and this divide thrown in the middle, and the overall conflict that our characters are trying to solve is that central problem. But I do think it's interesting 2 seasons in how they've taken these obviously evil things and really kind of complicated them in interesting ways. Because Viren is a character who's so like obviously bad, right? Like he's the main antagonist basically. He is like super into dark magic, and his entire second season plot is dealing with the mirror, which, man, here's just a general rule for life, everyone. If you see someone in a mirror, don't hang out with them.
Yeah.
Even unless it's if it's you, that's probably fine.
Yeah, but if you see somebody else in a mirror that isn't you, they're in there for a reason. They need to stay there.
Yeah.
You need to put that mirror somewhere far away. I agree.
Yeah.
This is that, but I mean, it's cool because, like you said, Viren is as close to being fully uncomplicatedly bad as possible. Like the nicest thing you can say about him is he really does seem to believe that the Zadians are a threat, but that just means he's earnest in his horrible beliefs.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's complicated, right? Like I actually think he's a deceptively complex character.
Well, so yeah, I guess what I would say is I think that he actually did care for the king.
Yeah.
Part of it was because the king was helping advance him, but it wasn't just purely psychopathic. It was a real friendship, a real brotherhood, and he really liked that the king like appreciated him, and that was cool for him.
Sure.
But like beyond that, he hasn't, like, everything he's done within the story has been terrible.
Yes. Oh yeah. Yeah.
It's entirely possible that he has actually like locked the king's soul away somewhere, which is I think you and I, he had the 2-headed snake thing that can swap souls. He goes into the room with the king with the snake thing, and then you just never see the king again. Yeah,
and we're told that the king was killed by the elf assassins, which they still might have been, right?
Right.
It was the body of the king that was swapped.
Right.
Yeah, there's no way the king's not in the bird. Like, there's no way. They've cut to the bird, like, intentionally a couple times. I think the season of the show ends with, like, him getting accosted in his room, like, because he's doing evil magic-y stuff. And as part of the struggle, the bird cage gets knocked over, and I almost said the king. The bird flies out the window.
Yeah.
It's definitely the king.
The camera suspiciously follows the bird out the window. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. I agree. Yes. I don't know. It's interesting because I can't really figure out what age group this is targeting, because I mean, I guess I'm not going to say like, oh, it's really, really violent. It's shockingly violent. Like, no, it's not that bad. But they do show a surprising amount of people being like blown away by magic spells and turned into like a cloud of burning ash and things of this nature where you're like, oh, they showed it. Okay.
I mean, I think we learned through our discussions of both Avatar and Korra that these guys really wanted to do a show geared towards children, but they also wanted it to explore really dark stuff. And they had constant pushbacks from Nickelodeon about that. So I feel like Netflix, everything I know about Netflix is they care much less about that kind of stuff. They're very hands-off type of production studios. So they really got to do whatever they want. And I think what they wanted to do here was, it's still definitely a kid's show. Like it is. But yeah, the themes are much darker. The level of violence that happens here is much darker. I mean, like the whole plot of the first season revolves around Rayla's arm. Her hand is just going to fall off.
Yeah.
And it doesn't end up happening. But I just kind of felt like it was inevitable that we were just going to see an elf hand fall off.
Yeah. Yeah. She's going to be Rayla the one-handed. I mean, it's funny because we're talking about how complicated and nuanced it is. But I think maybe my favorite moment was I was watching with my kids. And like as soon as Viren appears, my son is like, "Oh yeah, there's the bad guy," and I was like, I was actually like, well, now, son, don't you think they're doing something kind of complicated with this character? Like, look, he actually appears to care about the king, and then my son was like, look at his staff though, and the funny thing is, of course, I mean, yes, they are kind of trying to do something complicated, but like, this is a guy who we later see him like his skin is like ashen and cracked, and his eyes are black, and he has to kill a butterfly every day to stay alive, basically, or something. We don't really know what the butterflies are doing exactly, but something like that.
Something creepy. Yeah, I mean, the thing that I think that works about this, and I swear to God, I'm not going to compare this to Avatar in every way, but it takes very tried and true archetypes and ideas and plot lines, and then does interesting things with them. And I think that's what Avatar did very well too. Like it did not take a lot of understanding of story to like get who each character and their role in the story was supposed to be in these two seasons at all. Like that was pretty simple. But then it goes from there in interesting ways. And the ways in which all of our characters, like we have our three main characters. We have Callum, Rayla, and Ezran, who are good guys. We like them. They are on the side of righteousness, basically. And then everyone else is against them, kind of. But against them in weird, complicated ways. Like I love the Claudia Soren arc with them, because like it starts with that. Like, first of all, is like they grew up together. They were all friends. These are their closest friends. So there's that complicated part there. And then they get sent out here on orders from their father to do like terrible shit.
Yeah.
Like Soren gets ordered to kill them. Claudia is specifically told, hey, if it's between your brother or the egg, get the egg.
Right.
And so like and then they seem to be like just they're going to listen to their dad and they're just going to do what they need to do. And then of course that gets complicated. I don't know. I really appreciated that part of it.
Yeah, sure. I like that part. I liked there's no real mapping of like, well, who's the who's the Sokka and who's the Aang? Like it doesn't really work because we haven't really talked about like what you could call the main good guys, which I think maybe is sort of a problem.
I don't love them.
The bad guys are so much more interesting.
I don't love Callum. He's basically our protagonist, right?
That's the interesting thing is Callum is definitely supposed to be the most relatable, but I was always way more interested in Rayla.
Yeah, me too.
And I mean, what's funny is I was probably most interested in whatever Lord Viren is up to because, he's a cool villain guy. And
yeah, I mean, my favorite episodes are the ones that focused on Viren and what crazy shit he's doing back home. Yeah. Like I actually loved the episode where he called all the kings to that council and the little girl ended up rejecting him. I thought that was a great couple of episodes. And it's a really great because like so it's set up. He finds this mirror in the realm of the Dragon King that he killed. He finds the mirror, knows it's important, brings it back, can't crack it, finds what looks like an elf. I don't know what, I guess it's probably a star elf, judging by the list. It has stars all over it. So that's my guess. And he starts just like following whatever it wants him to do. And when I first saw that, I was like, this guy hates the elves. Like he hates them all. Why would he trust this person just because he knows this thing is powerful? And then the show does that. The show says, oh wait, why would I trust you? And it has him abandon this whole thing, and he doesn't come back to it until he's basically screwed. He's failed and desperate, and in his desperation turns back to mirror elf that fucks him over basically. But gives him exactly what he wants.
Yeah, it's interesting. It is kind of funny because I like the way that ends is interesting because it actually seems like the evil elf guy is actually helping him, and then is actually disappointed when he loses. So you're like, oh, okay, well, whatever.
Well, but I mean, do you have a prediction about why? Because like he could have, as he says in the moment, I can kill every single one of these people here. Like I can do this easily, but elf guy tells him to give up and stays with him, and that we see the worm crawl into his ear instead of just hanging out on top of his ear, which again, just never a good sign. No. Just not good.
Yeah, I have misgivings, certainly. I forget. Yeah. Does he create the assassin spirits at the end of after that, or is he captured?
I think he's already let those go.
Okay, and then he's captured. Yeah, it must be the case. But I think that the evil elf guy just knows that he can get him out of the situation, or like it'll look better for him if they come and get him out of jail because they've realized they need him, you know?
Yeah, totally. I think that's probably part of his plan, because the assassins all look like elves too, which of course is part of the whole thing,
right?
That he's instigating this conflict. But yeah, I mean, like we said, he's instigating the conflict because he earnestly believes that they're bad. And the thing that we haven't talked about, like the mythology of the world very much, and I actually find that really interesting. I find this whole concept of there are these 6 elements, and they make all magic, and humans were cursed with not getting access to any of them, but they found a way to do it anyway, and thus were immediately banished for it. And so like there's like, as much as the humans are clearly like the assholes in the conflict as it is currently, there's the potential for a lot of interesting, complicated stuff there. Yeah. Like I feel like we're going to learn that the past as it exists is not so clear cut, that the humans were bad and thus were punished.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the past is something that's being intentionally kept from us in a way that makes me suspect, like, oh yeah, as we go through the story, we're going to get to a better understanding of, or a more nuanced and thematically complicated understanding of what was actually going on with these these people, and because like there's so many things we don't really know. Like, okay, there's dragons. Are the dragons in charge? We don't even know if dragons can like talk yet. Like, how could they be in charge if they can't talk? So just little stuff like this. It is interesting that the show starts after the Dragon King has already been killed, right? The beginning of the show is we get a prologue, and then the humans have killed the Dragon King and his egg. And we don't get to see that at all. We learn more about it after the fact a little bit. Mm-hmm. We learn who was more involved in it, and we learn that the king has serious regrets about actions that he took, as he tells his son in the last conversation they have. But it is interesting that is kept, like, I guess we learned that was done as retribution for the dragon killing the king's wife. Yes. But the reason that he did that is because they're stealing shit. Like, it's just right. It does paint this picture of just this ongoing, like, retribution based conflict that just is just not going to go anywhere positive. Yeah. Like, right. Well, and that's obviously tied into exactly why the main characters are on the mission that they're on. They're like, no, the prince has to be the one to return the dragon egg, and then eventually becomes the live dragon, in order to, you know, make a gesture of good faith and forgiveness and unity. And I think that's a really cool idea.
Yeah, I like it.
It's cool that they're doing this, and in the meantime, you have Lord Viren in the background doing the opposite, and so it makes a fun, you know, interesting, complicated, dramatic conflict between it aligns between the two of them, right? It's not just like, oh, he's trying to catch him. Like, no, he's not just trying to catch him. They're specifically ideologically opposed, and that always makes for good storytelling.
Yeah, I mean, and I think, you know, as the show shifts into Zadia in the third season and beyond, possibly, I think we're going to start to get more information on the Zadian side of this whole thing. Like, the show has been very humanity focused, and that we've really focused on all the faults of the humans and all the fucking up they've done and the terrible stuff. But I really do think as we move into the other half of the continent that we are going to start to get more in depth. And I think, true to the show, I don't think that side's going to be perfect either. I think that's like the tear in the world and the tear in these peoples needs to be repaired, and it was caused not just by one side but by both sides.
Right. Yeah, I think we're definitely going to explore Rayla's story more as we get into this part, because
she's the key to that, I think. And that's the interesting thing about her is, I don't want to say she's taken a back seat in the show, because she definitely hasn't, but Callum and Ezrin have definitely been more of a focus as far as like character growth. Yeah.
Well, as far as the plot, you could say, because I mean, everything has been about their father and the people who were chasing them specifically. Rayla is just the assassin who came after them plot wise, but character wise, we know that she has some complicated thing going on with her parents. I mean, obviously she trained to be a killer, but she's never killed anyone. And the first time that she came across someone who she was supposed to kill, she couldn't do it. And but that doesn't mean she's not brave. Like, she always defends them. And she's, I mean, honestly, I think the most compelling part of the good guy team, except for of course Bait.
Bait is the best. Bait is the Bait is the Momo of the show, or is Bait the? I forgot the avatar names. They can't ride around on Bait, so Bait can't be the flying.
Appa can't be Appa.
Thank you.
It's a cross between the two.
Sure, but the best part about Bait, of course, is the opening of the show when Bait does the Netflix little jingle there. That's the best part of the entire show.
It is.
Let's talk about Callum for a little bit.
Okay.
Because he's our protagonist, basically. The show really wants him to be.
Yeah.
And he's kind of, to me, like a very archetypal milquetoast kind of guy that I just had a lot of trouble getting into. Like, I think the whole being a half brother and a stepson of the king is interesting, and the fact that his mother is gone. But like, I don't know. He just like, I've never been good at anything, so I'm gonna be good at magic. And I was like, yeah, okay. The most interesting parts to me of him were the realization that he's never gonna be able to do magic,
right?
And how the dark side tempts him because of that strong desire to be able to do magic. But I don't know. I feel like it kind of fast forwarded over that a little bit. I don't know.
I think so.
Maybe it's a well they're going to return to. But I remember, like, I was only a couple episodes into season 2, and I messaged you because it was right after they are approached by Claudia and Soren, and Claudia basically tempts him with dark magic. And this is, I think, after he's already been told by the Moon Nexus Guardian woman that, sorry, you're just never going to be able to do magic. You just won't be able to do it. That's just, it doesn't work that way. And I just I was very surprised in the moment that he just went, no, I'm sorry, not going to do it. Can't do it, won't do it. And I was just like, really, show? Really?
Yeah.
You have this rich temptation and you're just going to walk away, especially because it's a girl that he's obviously attracted to and obviously really likes.
I don't even really understand the motivation for why he said no. His father's close advisor and his crush both do this thing.
Right. It's only bad magic from the perspective of the Zadians. In their land, it's just what people do, right? Like if none of our inciting incidents had happened, he probably would have eventually trained in dark magic. I feel.
Totally. Yeah, exactly. So I feel like he's a little too good, and that's maybe kind of the crux of at least my issue with him. Maybe yours is that he can be relied on to just be nauseatingly good at every turn.
Sure.
And always make the right choice. And that's kind of admirable in a children's TV show character. But while that may be the case, it's not very dramatic, and it's not very realistic, or it doesn't make you interested in the twists and turns of the story.
Sure. And I will say that I liked that they ended up going back to that well still. Because how could you not? It's right there. It's just right there, that this strong temptation. And so he eventually is tempted enough to dip into that well. But then I feel like they just immediately backed away from it again.
Yeah, they did. They did. And then, I was like the kid in me watching the show was tickled when he learns airbending at the end of the second season.
Sure.
But the adult in me was like, oh, they just gave it to him.
Yeah, they just gave him exactly what he wants. So it turns out, yes, humans can always do that. And somehow no human in the entire millennia long history of this world has figured that out except for you. Hooray. And that's mean. Look, this is a show. This is a very important character on the show. I can extend the logical leap to say that he's cracked something about magic that nobody else had thought about because he's approaching it from such a different perspective. I can fuck with that. Yeah. But I still I guess I don't know, it feels weird to criticize something for not doing the thing that I wanted it to, but I was very surprised that Rayla's reaction to Callum's using dark magic was not more extreme. Because she's definitely upset with him for doing it, but she also is making jokes about it. He uses dark magic and it takes too much out of him, and he basically passes out, and he has that entire dream sequence in which he learns he finally rejects the temptation. And I say finally as if it was really tempting him for more than just once. And then he had a dream where his mirror self is offering it to him again. And he just says no, because he's perfect. And he's like, that's what you get when you use dark magic. And I was like, this is the thing that caused your two species to hate each other forever, is the use of this stuff. And I felt I don't know, in a different show, maybe, that is a breaking point between these two characters. That is a thing that separates them, that she's disgusted by him or something. And I just didn't feel like we went there.
Yeah, I think that in a sense they just didn't want to do that because they wanted to do this other thing over here that they wanted. In the last episode, they basically revealed that Rayla is in love with him or something.
Yeah.
Which to me didn't feel right, but we'll see where they go with that.
I'm fine with them doing a star-crossed lovers thing.
Uh-huh.
I think it makes logical sense that if you're trying to heal the bonds between these two people, a romantic relationship between a representative of them makes sense.
I think the problem is I thought of Rayla as being 20, and Callum is 13 or something. I don't know.
Wikipedia says she's 15 and he's 14, but. Do elves?
That's bullshit.
Do elves have the same life expectancy as humans? What is an elf in this? Is it the elf we understand, or is it just a magic thing that lives just as long as?
No, I think they live a lot longer because when she's doing one of her human impressions, which are the best part of the show, actually,
So good.
She kind of offhandedly at one point says like, I'd like to live this miserably short lifespan. And
you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that, I guess they just live a long time. We don't know how long.
Sure. That's a
so
good way to shift gear to Rayla, though.
Yeah.
Who I love.
Uh-huh.
She's played by an actress called Paula Burrows, who I love her. I love her Scottish accent. It's great. I love it. Are all moon elves Scottish? I don't know. Don't care. It's great.
I think they're not actually, because the ones that we meet who are with her don't seem to be.
You're right. They just speak with an American accent, kind of. She's wonderful though. I love we talked about this already, that the show does not spend as much time with her because it is not her plot yet, but the parts we do I all really liked. We start she is kind of the hook of the show, I think. What you start getting invested in the characters with is her journey in the first couple of episodes, because she's the first moment of the show is her sparing this human before you were even really understanding what's going on here. And then you see the ripples, basically doing that one thing is the inciting incident of the whole story almost, because it's because the humans know about the elves that this whole thing gets screwed up, and that her and Callum and Ezran bump into each other. And it's that's the moment when the assassins spared a human, is the moment that starts this whole thing going.
Yeah, I like that. That's true. I mean, she is really funny. She's, I think, maybe the funniest aspect of the show to me.
Yes.
I think part of it is that some of the voice actors have better comedic skills than others, or I don't know if it's the voice actors or a combination of the voice acting and the animation, but there'll be some occasions where I'm aware this is supposed to be a funny scene, but it's just cringy to me. But for whatever reason, anytime Rayla tries to be funny, I think it's funny, and I think that does have a lot to do with voice acting.
Yeah, I think you're right that some of the jokes in the show did not land very well for me either. But Rayla is a point of light in a show that is sometimes not very funny. Yeah. If I told you that Callum was voiced by the same person that voiced Sokka, would you believe me?
Now that you say that, it makes perfect sense.
I just looked that up while you were talking, and I was like, okay.
Yeah, no, I mean, they definitely have the same voice, so I'm not surprised now to hear that. But it didn't occur to me at the time. I think that they are different. They're sufficiently different characters, and the voice actor is good enough to kind of carry the differences in who they are. So
yeah, but he gets to have more fun with Sokka because Callum is like a stick in the mud.
Yeah, Sokka's.
I need to be nicer to Callum.
I don't know. Man. We'll see. Maybe in future seasons he becomes super edgy, and then we'll be like, oh God, what did we say?
I really want to see so he's basically going to become an avatar now, right? In which he's going to be learning about the different magical elements and how to wield them, because he's got wind down. I don't know. I think you're right that it's hard for me to it was a cool moment when he learned how to do it, but it's also just to me the most boring thing. It's just giving the character exactly what they wanted.
Right. And them having power, that's the problem. I think that's the problem with I don't know what to call it other than kids shows, but shows where you're sort of encouraged to self-insert into the characters and the protagonists specifically. It's always a problem where the show has to make the character more and more powerful until they can defeat the big bad, because that's the nature of this kind of plot. That's just how it goes. I mean, that is what Avatar was.
Yeah. But I mean, Avatar, it's fitting that's the same voice actor, because Sokka had this whole arc in which he was very jealous of everyone else around him that had all these great powers, and he would never get it. And I think this is if that arc was resolved by them going, you're actually a bender. Yeah. Surprise.
Right.
I mean, obviously I understand that they're doing this very important thing with Callum, and I think the discovery of that humans have the ability to do this stuff is going to be very, very important to the plot. So I understand it, but yeah, there's just a part of me that's just you just you just gave the dude what he wants, and that's so dramatically inert.
I even think that we could have gotten to a point where he got the airbending, but made it feel like more earned. Maybe I think that's fundamentally my problem. Is it just didn't feel all that earned. It didn't feel like you pointed out. It didn't feel like we had enough back and forth struggle over. Maybe I should just do this dark magic thing. It seems very convenient, and I don't really see the problem with it. Like there could have, like you said, we could have just had like one episode where he's like, hey, this dark magic stuff is awesome. I'm going to use it for everything. And and Rayla like is the counterpoint to that and points out issues with it. And then maybe he, directly causes something bad to happen or whatever. I mean, it's sort of what I'm spewing out right now is actually yet another hackneyed plot turn in a story like this. But like without that sort of perfunctory story movement, it does just feel like he just gets to win now.
Yeah, I mean, like I think there is something addictive to black magic, and I guess they're exploring that through Claudia more. Because I'm guessing Claudia is going to take a very dark turn in the next season. That seems to be what we're setting up, right? And it is this like very understandable thing where it just becomes a crutch, and then when something truly bad happens, you can't help but use it. And you go too far. And they could have done that same plot with Callum, right? Where like the first time he uses it to free a dragon, and it's unquestionably a good thing. He saved this dragon. That's good. Good job. The dragon was just flying over a town, not doing anything, when Soren just decided to attack it, probably killing a bunch of people because now they enraged a dragon.
Right.
And then they captured it, and so you freed this dragon that was minding its own business before it got involved in this thing. And that is like, okay, the first time I did it, and then something else, another problem raises its head, and it's like, oh, well, I could solve it this way. I could solve it the hard way, or here's this easy way. And then you just continue down that path. But it seems like that's what they're doing with Claudia.
Yeah, I think so. And I honestly think that while part of me wanted Soren to like remain paralyzed because that would have been a very interesting direction to take his character in, I do think they're going in a direction where he had this moment of self-awareness and honesty that was prompted by his injury. And I don't think he's going to just go back to the way he was. I think that is his moment of like awakening and maturing. And after this, maybe there'll be conflict between him and Claudia. Maybe there'll be conflict between him and his father. I think we are going to see a bit of a Zuko situation where he ends up with the heroes.
Cool. Yeah. But
I mean, different because he's not the same as Zuko, but the same in that he goes from being their pursuer to being their ally at some point. That'd be my suspicion with this story.
Yeah, I agree. And I hope you're right, because I think it would, like, if the whole paralysis plot line was just a tool to get Claudia to sink lower and didn't have any kind of long-term effect on Soren, I'd be pretty disappointed. Yeah. And I think these guys know better than that kind of thing is going to have an effect on someone. He had basically come to terms with the fact that he was never going to walk again. And yes, that's been reversed, but I think that still changes you. And I hope that that's explored.
I did think it was a pretty delightful scene when he's lying there and he's trying to be brave, and he's like, I've decided I'm going to be a poet, and people will come and spend time with me and have tea, and then I will tell them my new poems. And it's taking what could have and maybe should have been an incredibly sad scene and making it one of the funniest parts of the show. And his sister is like it's him being like a doofus that actually drives her to be like, I can't let him be this way. I have to go do unspeakable dark magic.
Doesn't he try to make a haiku and it's not even a haiku or something? He does.
He tries to do it. Yeah, exactly.
It's great. It's great. I like the two of them. I really do. Yeah. And I wasn't expecting to, because he's the like arrogant, airheaded warrior guy archetype is not one that I'm the most interested in. But I liked him by the end of it.
Yeah, I liked him too. I think I liked him from the beginning because he's not arrogant in a way that's self-aggrandizing. I think he's just used to being really good at what he does.
Sure.
We haven't talked at all about Ezrin. I think probably because there's just not a ton to say. The little kid who's going to be king, he can telepathically talk to animals, I guess.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I actually think my favorite episode, and I'm trying to remember which one it is. I think it's Cursed Caldera, when they all work together to defeat the monster.
The spider thing.
No, the leech one, I think.
The leech,
they see the spider thing a little bit later.
Yeah.
I think actually those two, that's the last two of the first season. I think I liked those a lot. I think that's really like the goal at the end of the season. It seems to be to really make the team a cohesive unit and give everyone something to do. And Ezra, the first thing he gets to do is just raise bait in the air, which is nothing. But then eventually the show gives him something to do, and the fact that he can talk to animals, which is cool.
Yeah.
But
I
I mean, he's like, I feel like when you have a kid character that young, they always end up a little bit underwritten because they're like I don't mean to demean children, but they're just kids, and they can't do as complicated stuff with them. I think they're getting there though, right? Because I think his choice to leave the group and go home was a surprising and interesting choice to me.
I agree.
End the second season on.
Yeah, because he really is just kind of going along with things, and then that is the point where it's it's an adult choice. It's a kingly choice where he it's funny how like even the other characters are like, but what? But do you have to? And he's like, no, this is obviously the rational thing to do.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, that's true. And it's like it's unsentimental and practical, and it makes a lot of sense. It makes you admire him a bit more. But yeah, I mean, until that point, he rarely gets a moment to be anything other than like, oh, he's the cute kid. Mm-hmm. That's okay. That's his role.
Yeah, that was definitely his role in the early story, but they are complicating that, and that's, I think, that I'm hopeful for this show. Like I didn't dislike it. There's nothing I looked at the show and said, "Oh, this is terrible." I just was kind of it's good. It's good. I think that's what you wrote in your notes. I think that's your first note is like, it's okay.
It's okay. Yeah. Yeah. I liked it. I watched I think like most of the first season with my kids, and then I didn't have enough time to like schedule in the second season, so I watched the second season by myself. They liked it a lot. They were riveted. I always consider that to be
kid test.
Yeah, exactly. Like in fact, watching stuff with them will often make me like it more because I'll see their reactions and kind of tune into the purity of their kid frequency.
Right. And which again is who this is for primarily. Which is not to say anyone that enjoys it, like, oh, you look at a kid show, like you can find enjoyment in everything, but this is geared younger.
Yeah.
Maybe not. I don't know how, if this is geared younger than Avatar or not. I don't know. It's geared younger than Korra, that's for sure.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, they don't go into all the relationship drama really. There's a bit of it, but it's in a very like middle school sort of way rather than like the complicated. Yeah. I think we wanted to talk about the animation a little bit. We didn't really talk about that, right?
Yeah. How do I put? It's bad.
So you particularly, it's funny because I only noticed the thing that you're talking about. You were talking about the frame rate.
Yeah.
And I only really noticed that a few discrete times, like where there would be like a fight and I would be like, wow, like we're just skipping around. Like they're teleporting around. It's not like persuasive that this is being animated. And then
it's definitely the most. Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
I just eventually kind of felt like it got better. Maybe, I don't know.
Well, so okay, I had to look this up because I didn't know what was going on because I started watching the show and I was like, "This looks awful. This is terrible." And yeah, basically what happened is it's all computer animation, and it looks computer animation-y. And I guess in an effort to make it look less floaty, they slowed the frame rate down in the first season. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I mean, the points where it's most noticeable is action sequences because when things are moving quickly, you notice frame rate more. It's also like when they do like sweeping wide shots, you notice it a lot. Like when the camera like sweeps over an area, it just looks bad. It's awful. It's awful. And they fixed it. So starting season 2, they fixed the frame rate. And I mean, like, as much as I'm saying it was awful, you just get used to it eventually. Like the first 4 episodes, I was just like, this animation looks cheap. It looks shitty. It looks bad. I am not enjoying this at all. And as much as I am interested in the characters in the world, it is difficult to watch. And then I think your brain just kind of adjusts to the style and it gets less noticeable. But I'm still very, very thankful that they fixed it after the first season. Because, yeah, it just made it look cheap and made it look like it looked like they spent $5 animating it.
Yeah. I definitely feel like they fell into a stride of how they wanted to do it and how they wanted it to look. Because I agree, like the first episodes, when they're in like the castle in particular, like the whole castle like set, or I guess model is the right word, but like everything about it just seems like a tech demo or like a video game.
Yeah.
I think video game is even a better, because like there were times, I remember this one particular scene where like everybody's walking up a spiral staircase, and it reminded me so much of like EverQuest or something, where as you walk up, like the character's head will like pop up in like discrete increments as they hit each stair. And it's just, I mean, that's just like the animator not really hitting the physically realistic motion of how people climb stairs properly, and becomes really, really obvious when it requires a lot of like very sudden vertical movement that human beings can't actually do.
Sure. Yeah.
But that was just like one example where I was like, okay, that's just a mistake.
Yeah. I mean, like it's not, and again, I think this gets better, but yeah, especially at the very beginning, like it seemed like it was very flat and it lacked detail in a lot of ways. Like you build the environment and you can kind of like you get the feeling, and I'm not sure if I'm doing a good job explaining this, but you get the feeling that like sometimes you feel like the world is real and lived in, and like if the camera's not pointed at something, then it's still actually there. But in this, a lot of the castle, I felt like I could definitely tell that this is just chunks of the castle that they've drawn and animated, and like that was it. Like, you know, and it's just like that's what I mean by it feels cheap. Like it just
yeah, I do. I think it actually has a ton to do with lighting.
Sure.
Which I don't really know what I'm talking about, but I have played around with a lot of 3D like animation stuff and throughout my life, and I've known people who do this for a living. And one thing that matters a lot is lighting, the way light actually behaves on surfaces and the way it casts shadows, and even something as simple as like when you look at a corner in your room, it gets darker as you go into the corner because the reflections off of the wall aren't reaching the corner. Like it's like very subtle and complicated things that normal people don't even notice, and thus when you see it on the screen, you don't know what's wrong, but you know something is wrong.
Sure.
But like I do think those first episodes, like everything is super well lit in a way that's just very flat. And then I think like I'm thinking of the scene where Viren summons the 4 assassin demons, and like that scene is awesome. That scene looks great. It's super well lit. It's got very consistent color to it. And by well lit, I mean lit atmospherically. It's atmospherically lit. It's capturing a mood, and like the you know, everything in his like dark dank dungeons is exactly the way it should look. So I think they just get a better handle on like color and lighting, and maybe they get better with the frame rate. I wasn't really like noticing or paying attention to the frame rate, but if you say so, I mean that's probably a big part of it as well.
Yeah, I think that's very well said. I agree with that. And it's not like, look, these animators are talented and skilled, and I don't want to insult them because they figured it out. Like that's the thing. It's like this. I would be much more critical about all of this had they like this been the show through all 18 episodes we've seen. But they figured it out, and the show looks great now. I love it. It is definitely a different style of animation. I think it's interesting that Avatar, which is a much more Eastern oriented show, they went with like much more classical looking hand drawn style. And this, which is a much more Western influenced show, they really leaned hard into the computer animation style. I think it works for the show. I think once they fixed the frame rate and got some experience under their belt, the show looks great. I enjoy it.
Yeah. I mean, we've done. Man, what's the one with the mechs? It was another show that we
Genlock.
Genlock, the same thing as Genlock, where I don't remember if cell shaded is exactly the right word, because I think cell shaded might be a bit more specific than what we're talking about here. But basically, it's like CGI computer models, but then with a filter that makes it look like a cartoon. But I think that this was maybe done even better than Genlock was, because like a lot of the fighting looks really, really good to me, like animation wise, and like the flow of the scene wise, and also the faces were something that really stood out to me, where like I never at any point had any complaints about like the emotionality of the characters' faces. I was always like, yep, that's perfect. This is exactly how to be using this technology.
Yeah, I totally agree. It looks better than Genlock. And it should. It's a much higher budget thing than Genlock.
Fair.
It should look better. The first couple episodes it doesn't, but they get there. Yeah, totally. Do we have anything else we want to say about the Dragon Prince? Are you going to watch the next seasons? I'm making an assumption that there are going to be 6 seasons of the show, because like Avatar, each season is a book. The first season was Moon, the second season was Sky, the third is Sun, and we have three other elements remaining.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think my kids like it, and so since it's always on Netflix, it's always available. There's a good chance that they will want to watch it. But
sure,
that will probably be the driver of whether or not I watch it, because
that's fair.
There are really good TV shows that I still haven't watched, so I don't think I'm going to put this in line ahead of those.
I'm trying to see if there's more. I'm trying to see if there's plans that there's going to be more, and I'm actually I'm on the Wikipedia page. I'm not seeing there's definitively going to be more seasons. So maybe it is done. I don't know.
Huh. Interesting.
It looks like one of the creators was accused of misogynistic and abusive behavior in the workplace.
Okay.
When they worked at Riot Games, that's Aaron has.
Okay.
So maybe that has put a kibosh on continuing the show. Let me do some more Googling.
So let's do some journalism.
Yeah. But we can't just be. We had to be talking.
What? Huh? We do. It says there's. To,
This is great.
Well, okay. So the release is September of 2018 through present, to me implying that it's continuing. Yeah, who knows? Yeah, maybe the show won't be continued, though, I guess is the point. So we've done 3 seasons. We might not be continuing it.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know.
But it seems like the 3 seasons were actually released September 2018, February 2019, November 2019. So they're hitting it at a pretty good clip, actually. I don't know what that implies exactly, other than I would have expected a 4th season to be coming out now-ish, or the next few months anyway. I don't know. Don't know anything about this. I'm probably going to just stop talking right now.
Yeah, we should not do live journalism on on the podcast. But I think it's less assured than I assumed watching these first 2 seasons. Netflix has been much more cancel-y lately, so it could just be a victim of that. They do 2 or 3 seasons of something, and they're just nope, that's good for us. I mean, we haven't seen the 3rd season, so maybe that just is the end of the story, and I just guessed it was 6 because of the whole elements thing. I don't know.
I guess we'll find out one way or the other.
Yeah, but it's interesting. I had not heard anything about this Avatar creator and the accusations against him, so that's a bummer.
Yeah.
Why are people bad?
I don't know. I wish they would stop being bad, though.
Stop it. Stop.
Did nobody tell him to stop being bad?
I guess not.
No.
I guess not.
Shoot.
All right, so that is The Dragon Prince. All 3 seasons are available on Netflix right now. Doof. Matt, let's talk about Quibi.
Yeah, tell me about Quibi.
So you have no idea what Quibi is?
At all. Zero.
Okay. Quibi, it stands for Quick Bites. It is a short-form mobile video platform streaming service that was created by Jeffrey Katzenberg of DreamWorks fame. Who else? Jeffrey Katzenberg and Meg Whitman came together and made this, like, I think it was like $1 billion, something absurd, to form the streaming service. And the concept behind it is mobile device only. So you do not watch it on TV. You watch it on your phone. And it's supposed to be quick bites of content. So they are between 7 and 8 minutes long. And it's scripted television, non-scripted television, and news, basically. They launched a week ago, and they launched with 50 shows, 50 different shows of those 3 kinds. And they have a 90-day free trial. So I said, well, if it's free, I'll sign up. So I did. And it's interesting, Matt. I think, first of all, we have to say this could not be a worse time to launch this service, because the whole idea of it is an on-the-go short bite of content platform. Like, when you don't have time to sit down and watch a half an hour show, you do have time to watch a Quibi. Like, if you're going to the bathroom, if you're sitting in the break room, if you're waiting in line somewhere, if you're on the train, just all these, like, you're out and about type of thing. And nobody's out and about right now. So bad call, everyone. Bad call.
Yeah. I'd say just in general, this is probably not a good time for launching anything at all.
True. Yeah, I think I heard that Katzenberg thought about delaying it, but decided to go forward with it. They're pushing it hard, and I gotta say, conceptually, I find the idea interesting. Like, the idea of a 7-minute bite of something that you can watch, like, sitting on the toilet or go into the break room, or just when you're trying to kill time in between something. It is interesting. And I think the other thing that's really interesting is that this stuff is supposed to be, and for the launch of it, it's not quite true, but it's supposed to be designed and shot around the concept of being on a phone. So one of the things that they're talking about is that, like, when you turn the phone right side up versus sideways, it doesn't just show, like, a smaller version of the widescreen. It actually goes to phone shaped, and it just, like, crops only what's important. And that's all programmed into the app. So it, like, crops the most important thing in the scene. It's still chopping off the sides of the scene, but that is different from any other streaming service that does that, like, that it actually changes. And I've seen a couple instances in which it does interesting things with that, where there's, like, a split screen and you see both characters on top of each other instead of standing next to each other. And actually, one show I watched used that to tell a joke that I thought was pretty effective. So, like, conceptually, I'm really into this idea. I think it's cool. Would I ever pay for it? Probably not. There's just too much content out there already. I just don't know where this slots in that. But I like the idea of it.
Yeah, I'm processing this in real time right now. I guess I always like the idea of short, bite-sized pieces of content. For some reason, it's reminding me of Love, Death, and Robots, where which weren't nearly that short. They weren't 7 minutes, but the point is, I like short, bite-sized things, because usually they're almost immune to a lot of the problems that we find in so many things. So many things, the problem is just, oh, we have an hour to fill with shit, so let's fill it with shit. Whereas 7 minutes, like, you're automatically almost going to tell a tighter story. So that's cool. I don't envision myself ever paying for such a thing either. But I've never really looked at it, so it's hard to say.
I mean, here's here's the problem with it right now. I watched 5 shows and all scripted. I watched scripted shows. I watched one episode of a reality TV show called Murder House Flip, which is just a home improvement show, but it only takes place in houses in which people were murdered in.
That sounds
which is
good.
like, it's kind of like a makeover / true crime thing. It's a fun idea, but it's 7 minutes long. I don't know if it really works. But I watched a show called Flipped, which is a comedy that stars Caitlin Olsen from Always Sunny in Philadelphia and Will Forte, who I love. And this is basically it's a show about 2 idiots who decide they want to make their own house flipping HGTV show and discover drug money in the walls of the house that they flipped. And it's just absurd. And it really works. I think comedy works best in this because it's just it's 7 minutes of just funny jokes. I find it very unlikely that I would ever sit down to watch a half-hour version of the show. Because it's not funny enough to make it appointment viewing, but a 6.5 minute, 7 minute little, just 3 jokes and you're done type thing. It works. It really works on me. And that one I've enjoyed. The dramas, on the other hand, no. So there's an action show called Most Dangerous Game. It stars Liam Hemsworth, one of the Hemsworth brothers. And it is basically taking the concept of Most Dangerous Game, which you know about. Basically, a guy is dying of cancer, and he's in a lot of debt, and his wife is pregnant. And so Christoph Waltz comes to him and says, I will give you $25 million if you play in my game, and you will be hunted. And if you survive for 24 hours, you win $25 million. If you lose, but survive long enough, your family will still get the money. So, of course, he does it. This was supposed to be a movie. And then nobody wanted to make that movie. So then they tried to make it a show, and now it's on Quibi. And what happens here is they've just divided this story into 7-minute bites, which is too little. The first episode is just him meeting with Christoph Waltz and him making the offer. And then the show ends, and I'm like, well, that was nothing. I've watched nothing. And I've they've released 6 episodes of this, which is probably about the length of a normal show. And it finally, at the end of the 6th episode of this, the game has begun. And it's just none of this was programmed with the 7-minute thing in mind. And that to me is not the point of what it was supposed to be. You're supposed to be making all this stuff with the little quick bite in mind. And that's why that show didn't work on me at all.
Well, that makes sense. That's like you break up a show into scenes. All you've done is you've taken the pilot episode or the first episode of a show and you've made it weirdly interrupted by breaks. Yeah.
And there's another show I only watched the first episode of, and by that I mean 7 minutes. It's called Survive, and it's playing on. I clicked on it, and it's playing on my. It freaked me out. It stars Sophie Turner, who from Game of Thrones.
Yeah,
she played. So this again, I've only seen 7 minutes of it. It takes place in one of those homes for troubled youth that she has suicidal ideation. There's people in there that have all kinds of other mental health issues. And it's heavy. It's really heavy. And I'm trying to imagine this idea of a quick bite between waiting in line at the grocery store. And the first episode is all about how she's tricked everyone at this home to think that she's not suicidal and she's getting out in 2 days and she's going to kill herself. I was like, that's not what?
Yeah, that's Quibi.
Yeah, right. It's Quibi, just a little Quibi. And I don't know if this was designed. That's the thing is, I don't know how many of these things were designed for this thing or were retooled for it after they failed elsewhere. And some of it, this one feels like it was retooled because it just doesn't seem like the right platform for this kind of stuff. I don't want to be sitting on a bus going home from work and watching this. It's tough. So while the concept is really interesting to me, I've not seen any show on here that like is like, yeah, I gotta do this. I gotta do this.
Okay. Sounds pretty lukewarm to me. I don't know.
Yeah. You know what the other problem is?
What?
My wife wanted to watch the Survive show with me. And you can't.
You can't. What if you just have to like mash together and sit together?
Yeah, you just
got to
sit together and look at my phone. Because I was like, I have a an Apple TV, so I was like, I have an iPhone, so I was like, oh, I'll just AirPlay it to my TV and we can watch it on my TV. For whatever reason, whatever like thing in the code, it just doesn't work. Like I can do screen mirroring where you can see my cell phone on the TV, and every app I open, and if I open YouTube, a YouTube video will play. But when I open Quibi and hit play on one of those, it's just a black screen. It doesn't work. So like they've literally created an app where like if her and I wanted to watch a show together, we just could not.
Is there a way to short sell this company?
There's a lot of money invested in this, Matt.
My God.
So yeah, interesting concept. Execution, a little murky, and worst possible time to release this is my feelings on Quibi. So
wow, I mean that's just stunning. That's just really amazing.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Wow.
So we'll see. We'll see. I don't know how this their first day they had 300,000 downloads on their first day, which the big headline was, oh my God, that's like way worse than Disney Plus. That's like super worse than Disney Plus. Disney Plus was like way better than any other streaming platform that's been released. So Quibi did okay compared to like when other stuff came out. So I think it's like it's too soon to doom and gloom them, but we'll see. I don't know.
I like to make predictions. I think they're not gonna succeed. It sounds ridiculous. It sounds like typical like bullshit where somebody thinks they have just this clever idea because it's different, but it's actually just different. It's not clever. I have no problem with 7-minute bites of content, but we have that. It's called YouTube.
Yeah, you're right. But I said but as if I'm about to make a difference between Quibi and YouTube, and I can't. Other than, I mean, YouTube does have a lot of celebrity stuff, but is there a lot of like celebrity-based fictional storytelling? Like Quibi has a bunch of reality TV and news shit, which I totally agree. YouTube has that shit covered. Any kind of like unscripted program, but how much scripted short stuff is there on YouTube? I don't think there's too much.
I just don't actually think that it's possible to monetize a 7-minute piece of content at a scale where you actually have high production values and famous actors. Like, I think the only way that you monetize a 7-minute chunk of content is if you make it dirt cheap to make that content by being just like a person who makes movies in their spare time.
Sure.
Like, sure. I just think that's the economics of that. I don't think there's any way to squeeze blood from that stone.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I think they're really like each and every one of these shows is usually headlined by someone pretty famous, right? Sophie Turner, Liam Hemsworth. I guess he's the lesser known Hemsworth, but still a known Hemsworth. I think Will Forte and Caitlin Olsen are not like stars, but people know those people. You see those faces and you recognize those faces. So I don't know. I think it works best when it's more like YouTube, but you're right. Then the argument is, how is this different from YouTube? And I don't have an answer to that question. So a 90-day free trial is a long time. So I will happily consume more Quibis as long as they continue to be free, because there's a show starting on the 20th of April called Dummy, and it's by Dan Harmon's fiance, about their relationship. And I've been following the two of them on Instagram for long enough time to know that they have a very interesting life, and I think it's going to be a very interesting show. So I'm a little anxious to try that out, but yeah, nothing else really.
Okay,
Quibi.
yeah. But, yeah, okay. As long as they have like one thing you're interested in and their price is low, might be worth it.
Yeah, I mean, the price is free. This is the thing is I don't know. I have no idea how long these shows are going to be. Like, The Most Dangerous Game, 6 episodes have been released. Are there 6 more? Are there 30 more? I have no idea.
Yeah.
It feels like it's just beginning. And I don't know. If it was supposed to be a movie and 6 is about like 45 minutes, then maybe there's going to be like 20. I don't know.
Interesting.
So that's Quibi. Quick Bites. There's also stuff going around that they've used the number of episodes and the shortness of episodes to skirt SAG guidelines as far as paying actors, because like I think SAG says if it's over 20 minutes and certain amount of price per episode, then it falls under SAG guidelines and you have minimums you have to pay your actors. And Quibi has nicely skirted around those by stretching out an expensive budget over 30 episodes instead of 10 and 7 minutes instead of 23 or something. I mean, the 20 minutes is like targeted to make 30-minute dramas. The thing that I think this shows is that SAG guidelines have not been updated for the world we live in now, because shows just aren't like, there's the 30-minute comedy and the hour-long drama are just not standard anymore. They're just not. And the SAG needs to update to make sure these people are getting paid.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Yeah. So that's it. That's Quibi. 2 stars, I guess. I don't know. It's free for 90 days. If you're curious, you just don't forget to cancel. 90 days is a long time.
Yeah. I'm mildly curious, but I don't even know if I'm curious enough to check it out, since nothing that you just talked about sounded like, all right. Cool.
Chrissy Teigen has like a Judge Judy-esque judge show. I watched an episode of that. So that if that's your thing.
Okay. No, it's not my thing.
John Legend came on and sang, because of course he did, because he's married to Chrissy Teigen. I mean, here's the thing though. It's 7 minutes long. Like, it's at the end of the day, it's like, it's 7 minutes long. Like, it's hard to say something's bad when it's only 7 minutes long.
Also hard to say it's good.
True. Very true. All right. That is all we had for you guys this week. If you have any opinions on The Dragon Prince or Quibi, for some reason, you feel free to reach out to us via email at doofmedia@gmail.com or over at our Twitter account at doofmedia.
Yeah, and if you're not already subscribed to this podcast, we encourage you to do so and ensure you never miss an episode. You can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, Google Play, and pretty much anywhere else podcasts can be found.
Yeah, and you can find this and all of our shows over at doofmedia.com. That's where you will find Pilot Season, which is our friends over at Media MD and Deep Impact have finished that show. They finished Deep Impact, and they are currently searching for a new show to do. And as part of that search, they're running 8, I think it's 8, right? 8 pilots of new shows that they're going to just try out and see how they like it to decide what they're doing next. The one they released this week was on Empire of the East, right? That book? I'm not sure. I should have known that before I started talking about it.
That sounds right. I didn't actually listen yet because we're in the weird times and I haven't listened to many things.
Yes. But they're doing a new one every week, and then they're going to decide. I think next week's is going to be Sandman, the comic, and then they're going to be doing one on the Expanse book series. So lots of fun ideas there. Check out that show, and they have a feedback form so to see which show you like the most, and you can give them feedback and help them decide what the heck they're going to do. So
yeah.
That is Pilot Season. You can find it at doofmedia.com. And if you like what we do here and want to support us or Pilot Season or any of the other great shows on our network, you can become a patron of Doof Media. Head on over to patreon.com/doofmedia and pledge $1 a month or $20 a month or $45 a month, like our wonderful patron Reismon, who donated at that amount and forced us to watch The Dragon Prince. Thank you, Reisman, so much. I enjoyed the show, and I like getting to see what those Avatar guys are up to.
Yeah, and I appreciated getting a chance to watch it. My kids enjoyed it too. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Also, please consider rating and reviewing this podcast on Apple Podcasts. Every review helps us get more exposure and introduces new people to the content that we make here.
That is it for us this week. We will see you all next week when, Matt, it's another one of our Council of Doof episodes. And guess what the council decided to make us watch,
Is
Matt?
it anime?
It's anime.
Uh-huh.
We're watching the first season of the Netflix show Castlevania.
Uh-huh.
It's only 4 episodes, so it's basically just a movie. And some people are going to be listening to this and they're saying, Scott, it's not anime. And I looked at it, and it's anime.
Yeah. And just to remind everyone, Scott is the arbiter of whether or not it's anime. So
Yeah. Dragon Prince, not anime.
Yeah. That's correct.
But Castlevania Season 1, haven't even watched it yet. Come on.
Yeah, definitely.
So tune in next week as we talk about the anime Castlevania Season 1, available on Netflix now.
My name is Doof, and you'll do what I say. My name is Doof, and you'll do what I say.